In the quiet depths of meditation, a remarkable phenomenon unfolds, a subtle, ever-present awareness that remains even when the usual chatter of thoughts has quieted to a mere whisper or vanished altogether. It is as though a faint echo of existence continues to resonate long after the busy noise of ideas, memories, and emotions has subsided. This lingering sense, often experienced as a gentle, persistent presence, invites a deep inquiry into its nature. At first glance, it may seem like nothing more than a reflection of the mind at rest. Yet upon closer observation, it becomes clear that this awareness hints at something far greater than the mere sum of thoughts and sensory impressions. The mind, with its clever ability to generate stories and identities, tends to create a vivid picture of a separate self, a me that appears to think, feel, and act independently. However, when attention is directed toward the pure act of witnessing, a striking realization emerges. The apparent me is not the entire story, but only a transient manifestation within a vast field of awareness. In the stillness that follows deep meditation, the usual narrative of self-identity begins to dissolve, revealing that what remains is an unchanging presence, an awareness that simply observes without judgment, expectation, or desire. This simple yet profound insight can be likened to the experience of looking into a clear mirror. When the mirror reflects a face, it is easy to identify with the image, believing that the reflection is the true self. Yet, upon careful contemplation, it becomes apparent that the mirror itself is not the face. It is merely a medium through which the face is revealed. In a similar way, the constant stream of thoughts and emotions that typically define everyday experience are like fleeting images, while the unadorned awareness in which they appear is the true essence of being. This awareness, often described in ancient wisdom as the silent witness, is not subject to change. It is not a thought, not an emotion, and not a form that can be grasped by the ordinary intellect. Rather, it is the very canvas upon which all experiences are painted. As the inquiry deepens, it becomes necessary to explore the origins of the persistent sense of me. At the outset of every moment, before any thought or emotion arises, there is a simple knowing, a bare awareness that simply exists. This primordial sense of existence is not confined by the limitations of language or concept. It is direct and immediate, a state of being that is both vast and intimate. Yet, the mind, with its insatiable tendency to conceptualize and label, quickly transforms this limitless awareness into a series of identities and stories. In the process, it inadvertently confines the infinite to finite boundaries, turning the unbounded into something that can be measured, analyzed, and ultimately misunderstood. Many traditions teach that the key to unlocking this deeper truth lies in recognizing the difference between the transient phenomena of the mind and the enduring quality of pure awareness. Through dedicated practice, some people learn to gently detach from the constant stream of mental activity, to step back and observe the inner workings of the mind without becoming entangled in them. With time, this practice reveals that the persistent voice of thought is not an external entity communicating with a separate self, but merely a process unfolding within the expansive field of consciousness. It is like watching ripples on the surface of a vast, still lake. Each ripple arises, interacts with others, and eventually dissipates, while the underlying water remains unchanged and serene. This realization brings with it a profound sense of freedom. When the habitual identification with the inner voice begins to fade, what remains is an expansive state of being that is not limited by the boundaries of personal identity. The experience is akin to stepping out of a confining cage and discovering a vast open landscape where every direction leads to new possibilities. In this state, the mind no longer feels trapped in an endless cycle of self-referential thought. Instead, it becomes open to a broader perspective, one in which the ordinary distinctions between self and other, thought and awareness, begin to blur. The mind, once preoccupied with maintaining the illusion of a separate I, gradually learns that its true nature is not confined to any particular form or narrative. The implications of this shift in perspective extend far beyond the realm of meditation. In everyday life, the consequences of identifying too closely with the constant stream of mental chatter can be significant. The tendency to cling to a fixed sense of self often leads to feelings of isolation, stress, and dissatisfaction. It creates an internal environment where every emotion is amplified and every setback feels personal. However, when the mind recognizes that the familiar me is merely a collection of thoughts and memories, a deeper understanding of existence emerges. In this understanding, life is seen as a continuous flow of experiences that are observed by an unchanging awareness, a state of being that is fundamentally peaceful and limitless. This recognition also opens the door to a more harmonious relationship with the external world. Without the incessant need to defend or reinforce the fragile construct of personal identity, the mind becomes more adaptable, compassionate, and open to the interconnectedness of all life. Relationships, work, and even the challenges that arise in daily existence begin to take on a new meaning, one that is not rooted in the ego's desire for validation or control, but in a shared, universal presence that connects all beings. The realization that every thought and experience arises within the same vast field of awareness fosters a sense of unity and empathy. In this state, differences between people begin to dissolve, and it becomes clear that every individual is an expression of the same eternal essence. There is also a practical dimension to this understanding. Many ancient practices and modern techniques alike emphasize the importance of developing the capacity to observe the mind. Regular periods of quiet reflection, mindfulness exercises, and other contemplative practices can help to train the mind to rest in the silent awareness that underlies all experience. Over time, this training not only reduces the intensity of everyday mental stress, but also enhances clarity, creativity, and a sense of inner peace. As the boundaries between the inner observer and the contents of the mind begin to blur, a person may experience a profound transformation, one in which the habitual narratives of fear, doubt, and limitation give way to an expansive, unbounded sense of possibility. The journey toward recognizing this inherent freedom is not without its challenges. The mind, deeply conditioned by years of socialization and habitual thought patterns, resists letting go of its familiar roles and identities. It clings to the idea of a separate self as a source of security and control, even when that very self is the cause of much internal strife. Breaking free from this pattern requires not only insight, but also a willingness to embrace uncertainty. It is a process of gradual unlearning, where each moment of quiet observation chips away at the rigid structures of identity, revealing the fluid, ever-changing nature of experience. Over time, this process can lead to a profound shift, a transformation in which the mind no longer feels confined by its own stories, but is free to explore the vast, open expanse of pure awareness. In this transformed state, life takes on a different quality. The relentless pursuit of personal achievement, status, or validation loses its grip, replaced by a deep appreciation for the inherent beauty and mystery of existence. Each moment becomes an opportunity to experience life in its fullest, without the constant interference of self-imposed limitations. There is a sense of ease and spontaneity, a natural flow that arises when the mind is no longer preoccupied with defending the illusion of separateness. Instead, there is only the quiet, steadfast presence that underlies every thought and every sensation, a presence that is timeless, boundless, and infinitely compassionate. Ultimately, the exploration of this inner landscape leads to the realization that the true essence of life is not defined by the ever-changing content of thoughts and emotions, but by the unchanging awareness in which they appear. This awareness is the fundamental nature of all beings, a silent, luminous field that transcends the limitations of language, concept, and identity. In coming to rest in this understanding, there is the promise of a deeper, more authentic way of living, one that honors the complexity of the human experience while embracing the simplicity of pure being. The journey is one of continual discovery, an ongoing invitation to look beyond the surface of everyday life and to awaken to the profound reality that lies beneath. Every moment of genuine observation, every quiet pause that allows the mind to settle, is a step toward reclaiming the true nature of the self, an infinite, unbounded presence that is, in every sense, eternal and free.